sing, can you sing by the dawn's early light? What so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, all the ramparts we watched with so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular, the bombs bursting in there, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thank you to Michael and the Liberty Express Bluegrass Gospel and all of our students for singing along. Please head to the Black Box Theater.
Fantastic outfit. Okay. She named me a Cecil.
How you doing today? You're looking rather dapper.
Thank you all for coming. It is an honor and a blessing to collaborate with organizations that preserve history. And that's what we're doing here. The two organizations that we are working with, the Cecil Field Memorial and the Aviation Museum, our students are helping to support, and we are so excited to take little thank you. Thank you to all who have served and continue to serve through the military to preserve the hope that is America. Thank you for the Foundation Academy students and all that you do. And thank you for all, we have many volunteers as well that have supported making all this happen. Special thanks to Robin Friedman, who has worked tirelessly. And if you know Robin, that's the only way she knows how to work. Next up is our invocation by Reverend Patrick Archuleta, chaplain of Cecil Field POW and MIA Memorial.
If everybody would please bow their heads and join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, we come together today in prayer, giving you thanks for your mercy and grace. We give you all the praise and glory that is rightfully yours. We pray also today for this incredible opportunity to begin a partnership and collaboration between the U.S. Military Air Power Museum and the Cecil Field POW MIA Memorial. We pray this endeavor to develop students will become a partnership whereby students will grow into caring community members with a God-given purpose, that they may live their lives to the principles of faith, hope, and love. I pray for the success of each student of the Foundation Academy and their families, and for the dedicated staff. God grant them all wisdom and knowledge to do your will in every aspect of their lives. Heavenly Father, I pray this prayer in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
God, I will trust. United I'll stand with my brothers and sisters all over this world.
Next, I want to introduce to you, that's Michael Casada, Executive Director of Cecil Field POW Memorial, and Martin Kosik, Executive Director of the United States Military. And I'm going to hand it over to them.
Well, thank you, Miss Nadia. Ms. Robin, I know you work tirelessly. 10:30, 11 o'clock at night getting emails. I'm already in the bed. So thank y'all for hosting this. And this is really special for, with all that's going on, that the military is getting attention in the school system. And so we appreciate you and what you do, and allowing your students to do this and collaborating with us. And I will tell you a side note, I wasn't going to say this, but earlier this year I was asked to sit on a panel for this senior portfolios, and there was maybe a half a dozen students that came through there. And I was touched, I was honored, because to see what they have done for these kids just really inspired me. And I can't wait, and I hope next year I can sit on the same panel and see what they have to say about the research they've done this year. So as Nadia said, my name is Mike Casada. I'm the Executive Director of the Cecil Field POW Memorial. Our goal and mission is to honor all those that were held against their will, prisoners of war, and those that are still missing in action. Not sure if a lot know, but I don't have the exact final number, but we started going back to World War II, 83,000 that are still missing. That's a big number. And if you think about it, to try to simplify it and to, I guess to give you an example, look at Everbank Field where the Jaguars play. That seating capacity is only 67,000. However, in a few weeks there is a game, I'm sure most of y'all know about, Florida-Georgia game. They expand the seating, and it's actually 82,000. So if you guys are watching that game and then you've seen aerial, and that will be a sold-out venue, think that's how many that are still missing to this day. And it's because of them that we have the freedoms that we do.
Amen.
This memorial out at Cecil, everybody I'm sure here is very much aware of the base was decommissioned in '99. My father served there, and so did these gentlemen sitting behind me. I was just a young child, but I remember taking my dad. We dropped him off at the hangar, and we were always proud of him. And there's a lot of sacrifices that were made, just on my family. But the difference was when my dad came home. A lot of these families, their loved ones don't come home, and that's the piece that's missing with missing in action is the family. The family's always the forgotten one. All the attention's on the actual service member. I had to watch my mother become the leader, and there was multiple times that my father was out at sea. So I understand that from the dependent side, but again, my dad came home. So this memorial, it has 16 pilots, going back to Vietnam and Desert Storm, of those that were either prisoners of war or missing in action. Since the base was decommissioned, it's actually been forgotten. The chapel that's sitting next to it became a storage facility. So we've been working with the city for 3 years now. We just successfully got our 26-acre lease. Through this, there is not a missing in action national site that incorporates all the 80+ thousand that are still missing. So that is the vision and goal of our site, that we will honor them. And we are very grateful to have the school here, and they are the ones that will be able to come and get educated. We do have a building that will be turned into a museum. There will be exhibits, artifacts, places that them and the general public can come and truly never forget those that are missing in action. So right now I want to turn it over to Marty.
Thank you. I am standing up. After standing next to Big John, that's why I say that. I am Marty Koziak. I'm the Executive Director of the new United States Military Air Power Museum. Think about Jacksonville. There's not one air power museum here to honor all the services, which is what we are doing. Unfortunately, we're not open to the public yet, but we will be in the next 1.5 to 2 years. We're located where you would think of as Craig Field, now called Jacksonville Executive Airport. The mission of our museum is to honor all the U.S. military veterans and military aviation through education programs, preservation, and collection of display of aircraft and artifacts. We're going to have more than just airplanes. What makes us unique is that some of our airplanes actually fly. We actually had an opportunity to participate at the Navy Notre Dame game. I was on that commission for that and fought very hard for a flyover at halftime. I'm going to tell you, and you're going to laugh, why it was shot down. Navy, gay, Army, airplane. So anyway, we're going to have displays of uniforms as well as artifacts, weaponry, medals, and we're going to have docents of various veterans throughout the museum. It's going to be Smithsonian quality. We're not specific to one branch of service. Like I said, we're going to honor all the services from Navy, which I come from, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, and Air Force as well. We believe that the STEM program, the science, technology, engineering, and math, is going to be a basis of our museum itself, and that's what brings us here to Miss Nadia and Miss Robin as part of the academy. The science, technology, engineering, and math program is going to be very big for young adults, for young children to learn about aviation, because we firmly believe that this program in itself will be the basis for developing new leadership in the aviation community, and maybe a few naval aviators as we go through as well. So we have in our possession aircraft right now. We have a maintenance hangar. We don't have the exact hangar. We're working with the city to get at Craig Field right now. We have an additional 80 aircraft identified to come to us once the facilities are open. We're certified with the museum at Naval Air Station Pensacola, which is really the mothership of the Navy, and the one at Wright-Patterson, which is the Air Force controlling assets of those assets when they come down to us. We work to have, and unfortunately today, we worked till 10 o'clock last night to try and get an A4 Skyhawk trainer here, but we had a mechanical failure, and that's why we don't have it. It would have been a hit of the show today, I believe. We have in our possession, and for those people that go back to the Vietnam era, you're going to be amazed. We have in our possession the only two in the world prisoner of war cells from the Hanoi Hilton. It was a benevolent donor that gave it to us. He wants to keep it here in Jacksonville. The Smithsonian wanted it. Naval Air Station Pensacola wanted it at their museum, but he wanted it here. So that's going to be an attraction not only from an education standpoint, but also an attraction for the city, because it's going to become a national thing for people to come and visit. Once we're up and operating, we're going to have a direct impact to the economy of Jacksonville. We're only 20 minutes from downtown, and I've been working with the mayor's office and the governor and to make this a viable asset. So thank you for this opportunity to allow me to have these few minutes. Thank you.
All right, I get to introduce somebody that actually I've gotten to know over the past year and a half or so, and you know, people like him and people that serve in our military, to me, are my heroes. Not you know, an NFL player, basketball star, NASCAR driver. For me, it's the men and women that serve in our military, because I know because of them, we and I have the freedom to do what we want to do here and to be safe. And folks like Captain Daraskevich, it's because of him. Again, we have the freedom, and they go into places so that we don't have to, and they keep stability and peace throughout the world. So his call sign is Dizzy. He was a pilot in the Navy for over 25 years. He's a graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy, commissioned as an ensign, designated as a naval aviator in '73. Has his pilot training originally in an A-7 Corsair, and was first assigned to NAS Cecil Field as officer in charge of the Navy Landing Signal Officer School, where he also served as a flight instructor. Dizzy has had a number of command positions throughout his career. He has flown combat missions over Libya and Iraq during Operation Desert Storm, deployed on board the USS Saratoga, which happens to be my dad's ship, or was. Graduate of Naval War College in the Armed Forces Staff College. He was awarded the Silver Star, Legion of Merit, Bronze Star, and numerous Air and Navy medals, accumulating over 7,000 flight hours. 7,000 flight hours. My wife is an engineer, and I had her help me with the math, and I'm trying to figure this out. So the simple thing we come up with is it's about 10 months, nonstop flying. So for you students, when the first day you start school, that's the day Dizzy takes off. And when your last day of school, that school year, is the day he comes down, nonstop. That is a lot of flight hours. Dizzy has over 16 carrier landings added to that, and after retirement, he was also pilot for American Airlines, so I'm sure that's where the other thousands of hours that came as well, on top of the 7,000. He is married, has two children, and Dizzy also serves as the official spokesman for the Cecil Field POW Mine Memorial. So ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Captain Dennis Dizzy Gillespie.
Can you hear me? When I was a senior in high school, I sat all the way in the back so that I could snooze or hold on to my girlfriend's hand. But I'll be watching. Where is Michael Clifton Palmer, the fella that sang the national anthem? Did he make it in here? He's busy. Okay. Well, God bless him. It was, for me, it was really moving to see everybody, when the color guard raised the flag, look at that piece of cloth and put their hands over their hearts and recite the Pledge of Allegiance, and then the national anthem, because it is incredibly important. I'm just a regular guy, and believe it or not, a lot of you young folks who think that you're going to be young forever, someday one of you will be standing here or somewhere like this talking to a crowd about your life experiences and maybe what's in store for you. The theme of my short discussion, I'm a storyteller, not a professional speaker, but the theme of my thought is, what is the cost of freedom and who pays for that freedom? For you and for me and for everyone who will ever live in this country, hopefully. 3 little vignettes. The first is about my grandfather. I grew up right after World War II, in a little town in Massachusetts. My grandfather was a great guy, didn't speak a whole lot, but when he passed away, I was about 10 years old. My dad took me to the funeral. I had never been to one. And in the front row of the church, the fellas brought my grandfather's casket by. And on top of the casket was a large American flag. I had never seen a casket, and I had never seen a casket with an American flag. And I was a bit curious, but the ceremony proceeded, and when it was over, we went to the cemetery. And there, again, my grandfather's casket with the flag. And after the priest gave his comments, a lot of you have seen this, the fellas that are older and gals, 2 Marines in their dress uniforms with white gloves came upon the casket, and they meticulously folded the flag. And it took a few minutes, and as I watched, I was only 10, and I'm trying to figure out what they're doing. Why don't they just kind of wrap it up? Well, they fold it in a specific way out of the love and respect, not only for my grandfather, who they don't know, but for the flag itself. And when they finished folding the flag, they walked over and saluted the flag and saluted my grandmother. And they presented the flag to my grandmother. And immediately following that, 7 Marines with guns and white gloves fired a 21-gun salute. And when that was over, a young Marine played taps. And even though I didn't know squat, I started crying like everybody else. When that was over, my father, as we drove home, explained to me what my grandfather had done, because I never knew. My grandfather, at 18, volunteered to join the Army in 1917 and was one of the first groups to go to France to fight with the British and the French in World War I. Later on in life, with children and a wife, he rejoined the Army after Pearl Harbor, and he was at Normandy, at Omaha Beach. Many of you have no idea what that is, but you should.
Amen.
I went with my wife a couple of years ago to Normandy at Omaha Beach to see what it would have been like for people just like you and just like me to have walked off that ship knowing that they were going to be killed. And they were going to be killed for people that they didn't even know. And it's a stark reminder of what the cost of freedom is for all of us. When I left the beach, which is now a national monument in France, my wife and I walked up to a cemetery, which I didn't know was there. It was probably 10 football fields big. And there were thousands and thousands and thousands of white crosses lined up perfectly. And under those crosses were the people who died at Omaha and Utah Beach, Americans. And then in the background, because it happened to be on the hour, I heard the playing of the national anthem of the United States in the country of France, lending respect to all of those people who knew what they were getting into. None of them wanted to die. Nobody does. But they're still there, and we're here. Mike, give me that thing. I'm not a teacher, but it's always good to have a visual aid. Okay? This is the flag that the Marine handed to my grandmother in 1961. These flags are never to be unfolded, never to be used or flown. This is my father's flag. He was a veteran of World War II. And someday, like a lot of us, somebody's going to hand my flag to my wife. And it'll end up with my son. So the flag means a lot to me. Lastly, and quickly, but maybe not too quickly, I was lucky in many ways to command an F-18 squadron aboard Saratoga for the Desert Storm War. That was long before any of you young folks were even born. Nobody wants to go into combat. Nobody wants to fight. But a fella in my air wing who grew up here, Scott Spiker, was a young guy, wife, beautiful wife, a couple of kids, had his whole life in front of him. And on the day we were about to launch the strikes, I had supper with all the pilots, and it was pretty quiet, hard to eat, to think about what's going to happen that night. And at about 10 o'clock that night, he manned up his F-18 Hornet, loaded with the weapons that he was supposed to take. And he launched off Catapult 1, afterburners, you've probably seen them on TV, the back of the airplane's all lit up. It's a thunderous sound, and off he goes. He's all alone in that airplane. And he flew for about 200 miles to hit the Air Force tanker about the size of an airliner. No talk, quiet, dark. And he in-flight refueled probably a half a dozen times in order to have enough fuel to get to his target and get back, all the way to the Red Sea on the other side of Saudi Arabia, by himself. Well, when he approached his target area, his airplane flew up. I did not see it, but a fellow in my squadron saw it, a huge explosion in the middle of the night, and the fight has to continue. You just don't stop. And everybody goes about their business, and we're trying to figure out what happened to Spiker. Well, nobody really knows what happened to Scott Spiker. Not really. What we do know, or what I can surmise, if you guys in the back, I hope you're not falling asleep, you can kind of put yourself in that airplane. It's almost like a Corvette. It's a hot little number, but at 40,000 feet, at almost 600 miles an hour, he's out in the wind. Probably incurred terrible injuries just getting out of the airplane. And in that part of Iraq, there's nothing there. There are no lights. And so he starts his descent, probably tumbling out of control, and he's coming down towards the surface of the earth at about 200 miles an hour. His parachute will automatically deploy, I think, at 14.5, right? Whether he was alive or dead, we don't know. But he hit the ground pretty hard regardless, and he couldn't see the ground coming up. And when he got on the ground, if he was alive, his job was to survive and to try to get home. Well, We looked for him for 18 years. And after 18 years, he was finally found. He was, in fact, buried by some desert folks who happened to be in the area that found him and buried him. And he's now at the Jacksonville Veterans Cemetery. So, in conclusion, who pays for your freedom? All of the freedoms that you hear on television and that's exactly right. Your freedoms, whatever they are paid for by somebody. I'll finish with just a question to wake up some guys and gals. How many veterans do you think there are since 1776? What's 1776? The beginning of the Revolutionary War. The beginnings of this country. Does anybody have any idea how many veterans there are? Alive and dead. Somebody take a guess. I met this lady out front. Take a guess. We're on Jeopardy.
8 million.
8 million. Higher.
40 million.
35 million men and women signed up to sacrifice themselves so that you could be here today. Of those 35 million people, how many do you think died in combat? Guess.
30 million.
That's a lot. Actually, 29 million Russians died in World War II. That'll give you a feel for the scope of World War II. 1.5 million Americans have been killed in combat. How many prisoners of war do you think we've had? Sometimes we focus, because of the recent past, on the Vietnam War and the Desert Storm War. How many POWs do you think we had here? Yes, ma'am.
85,000.
Higher. Keep going.
200,000.
Higher.
500,000.
Higher.
1 million.
577,000 Americans have been prisoners of war, some of them for years. Years. How many people were without electricity during the hurricane? Raise your hand. How many people were worried about food and water and air conditioning and having a roof over your head? These people had nothing, and some of them for years. I'm very humbled to be up front here sitting next to a guy you're going to hear next. He's a lot better and a lot braver than me. But I just wanted to say that I was very pleased to be here, and I was sad in a way, but I wanted to cry when I saw the flag up there and the way you folks think about the sacrifices of the people that went before you. And some of you will sacrifice for the same values. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce Captain Bob Hugh, retired Navy, and he is actually going to introduce Andy.
Good morning, everybody. I'm really happy to introduce my friend Andy Romotnik, who is one of those 577,000 that Dizzy mentioned. And I'll be brief because his story is what you really want to hear. But we've been friends for over a decade. We met on the tennis court at NAS when he was a young man in his early 80s. And we could play tennis together, and he didn't cut me any slack. But Andy's story is, he was 18 when he went in the service in World War II, 18 when he was shot down. He's 94 now. His birthday is on July 5th. He's 94. So he's a bridge, a historical bridge from World War II to you all sitting in the audience today. And it's so important to understand that, that connection. I mean, he was there. So he's going to tell you a story. And one administrative note, when Andy tells his story, he likes to ask questions, especially of young people, like those of you out there. And if they're not rhetorical, he would like an answer. So if you want to answer a question, yell out the answer. And the other side of this is Andy doesn't hear that well anymore. So one of us, Chaplain Pat or I, will translate for you. But don't be shy about answering his questions because he gets a lot of energy from that. So he's just got a couple questions during his talk. So with that, I'll introduce World War II POW and escapee Andy Romano.
I will get right down to my story. First off, I want to read to you the Code of Conduct for members of the United States Armed Forces. Item number 3. If I am captured, I will continue to resist by all means available. I will make every effort to escape and assist others to escape. I will accept no pardon or special favors from the enemy. That's my first article I want to read to you. The second is a letter I have here in front of me. I hope you can hear me, by the way.
Yes.
The letter dated August 1951 from the War Claims Commission. Here it is. Section 6 of the War Claims Act does not provide for the payment of benefits during a period of escapement, as indicated by our records, and a deduction for 13 days has been made for the period from April 8, 1945 to April 21, 1945. Now, in addition, I have one more comment. I got an email from Senator Marco Rubio's office a few days ago. The article reads, it takes them 4 to 6 weeks to investigate my claim. That was dated August the 4th. Today is now, I would guess, about 10 weeks. Well, you can figure that one out. Okay, now, my story. I'm going to ask some questions, and I hope I get some answers. 1939, America's worst depression. It was 25% unemployment. 2 years later, 1941, World War II was declared, December. 2 weeks later, I enlisted in the Army Air Corps. By the way, the pay then for enlistees in the military was $21 a month, not $21 an hour like today. You can't put that in the bank. Now, let me continue with my story. On October 1943, I was on my 43rd bombing mission over a target over Italy. That occurred after the defeat of the Nazis, the German military forces in North Africa and Sicily. I was shortly after assigned to a B-25 medium bomber squadron in Sicily. So on October 1943, our mission to Italy was 12 B-25 bombers. We crossed the the Mediterranean. When we hit the coast of Italy, we encountered heavy anti-aircraft fire. our airplane would shake in our formation of 12 aircraft, 12 B-25s, and when it shook, you could also see black puffs of smoke all around the formation that looked like blackbirds. What happened was, that was not caused by nature. That was the enemy firing their anti-aircraft at our B-25 aircraft, all 12 of them. And evidently, we were hit. Our aircraft's right engine was hit. Therefore, the formation left us because we couldn't keep up. Now, shortly after, the pilot says over the intercom, prepare to bail out over the mountain ahead of us. Now, the top turret gunner, he and I are the same age, 20 years of age. He gets down from his turret, pulls the bright red emergency handle. Then he tells me, Andy, the hatch won't open. Now, the first thing I thought of was, I'm not a magician. What am I supposed to do? Well, I'll tell you what I did. I reached over, pulled that bright red emergency handle. Nothing happened. I then kicked the hatch without my parachute, only my harness on. Nothing still happened. Now, my first question, if survive or perish, what would you do?
Kick it again.
I did not kick it again.
What else? Anybody else? Go ahead.
It's a good airplane. Go down with it.
Said go down with the airplane. Go ahead, over there. Try kicking the door a bunch of times.
We didn't do that. Find another exit. Find another exit.
Find another way.
There are no other exits. That's the only exit. Floor-mounted escape hatch in the B-25 for the gunner and I in the back of the B-25. By the way, the hatch works beautiful on the ground. I've seen them drop out when you pull the emergency handle.
Over here. Go ahead.
You can shoot the bullets on the door.
Shoot the bullets in it. Shoot it out.
How in the world can you shoot a hatch with a bullet, 45 caliber pistols that we all carry? Go ahead, last one.
Have more muscles to pull that.
Very good.
I will show you what we did. What I did. While my buddy, my gunner, had his parachute on, was standing by, waiting for me to act. Well, I did. I repeat, without my parachute, chest packed, only the harness on. This is what I did. I will show you. I jumped on it with both feet. Guess what happened? The hatch flew open. Well, what happened to me? That's my question. I followed it.
He fell out. He fell out. That's what she said. Yeah.
Fell out? Tell me. I followed the hatch. Then I reached in, got a hold of the metal ribs, pulled myself back in after struggling to do so. Then I put my parachute on. And we all got out because I saw 5 parachutes in the sky. I even saw the aircraft burst into flames when it hit the ground. Big ball of fire. Now, when I landed on the ground safely, and while taking off my Mae West and parachute off, I heard from the woods a voice, hands up in English. I raised my hands up, in come two soldiers, one with a rifle, one with a pistol, pointed at me. I knew I didn't land in friendly territory. I was captured. So, I was then transported by truck, train, and aircraft to the interrogation center in Frankfurt, Germany. After interrogation, and by the way, I got my first food there, a bowl of soup, at the interrogation center. After the interrogation, I now was transported by cattle car train, POW camp Stalag 17B in Krems, Austria. There, I found were about 4,000 Army Air Corps enlisted men in that camp. All POWs, all shot down. After being there on October 1945, and this is October, our group of 4,000 POWs from Stalag 17B were on a forced march in groups of about 100 from each barracks. We marched all morning until evening without food or water, and we were going to bed down, 100 of us, in an open farm field. John was shot down the B-17 over the North Sea. He was shot down as B-17, Flying Fortress. He was from Creswell, Oregon. He was going to make a fire, because we were going to bed down alongside each other, to heat a cup of hot water so we could have a cup of powdered coffee. That was a treat. But what happened was, I then went to get water in this little village of Lovensdorf. Population then was about 100. There's a water pump in the center of the city. I went to get water. I saw guards at 3 of the alleys, none at the 4th. Question: what would you do?
Door number 4.
What?
Take door number 4.
Take door number 4. That was
Take door number 4.
Fourth alley.
There's no doors there. I think I would better tell you. Go ahead, you're shaking a hand up there. No, I can't do it.
I got it. She said you wanted to escape.
Yes, sir.
There you go.
Well, what did we do?
Escape.
I didn't get water. I rushed back, asked my partner, John, you want to make a break for it? He said, yes, let's go. And we did. And we made it.
All right.
After we escaped, we had to cross the river. The moment we crossed it, we slept on the bank. We were exhausted. Early in the morning, we get up, walk into the woods. We found a cave with a hatchet nearby. That was our new home. Now, early one morning, there are noises around the cave. About 8 in the morning. The noises ceased around noontime. It sounded like metal against rock. We just stay in the cave and we can't see nothing because the noises are further out. After the noises ceased around noontime, John and I decided to walk out and see what's going on. We did see what was going on. Somebody was digging slit trenches and foxholes all around the cave. We're still curious now. We walk up a little hill. We got to the top. In come a group of German soldiers who were digging those foxholes and caves. So we were captured the second time. Now, they then transported us to another little village where we slept overnight. Early in the morning, the next morning, we're on a forced march with about 20 Frenchmen, POWs or what have you. John and I and the group of 20 Frenchmen guarded by the Axis, the German military. When we get out front, we can't see the guards. We take a look in the woods and we took off. We ran into the woods and made our second escape. We got away. After we got away, walking through the woods, we encountered a young teenager. He spoke Polish. I spoke Slovak, which I still do. We could communicate. The Polish kid, teenager, was a DP, displaced person. They were brought to Germany to help support the German war effort. The lady owner of this farmhouse, her husband was in the German army at the Russian front. He got us a job with this lady at the farmhouse. We slept in the barn, we worked all day, and we were provided food. That was a lifesaver by the young Polish teenager that did it for us. Now, after many days, perhaps even a couple of weeks, this is what happened. And I'm about the end of my story with this one question. Late one night, we hear noises. All of us in this old once farmhouse out in the country, we hear noises off in the distance. Sounds like men marching. Of course, what entered my mind is military marching. When the noises ceased in front of the house, there was silence in that house. This is what happened. A gentleman in a black uniform holding a shiny pistol at his side. I'm sitting right alongside of the door. He asked me in German, "How far is it to the next village?" I understood the question. But my question to you is, how would you respond?
Sprechen Sie Deutsch.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Point in another direction. Point in another direction.
Pointing in another direction? Boy, that's close. That's very close. But I'll tell you what I did. I pointed my finger to the people at the table. He turns, walks over to the table where those four people are, the lady owner, her grandmother, the Polish teenager, and the Croatian girl, DP. He asked them the same question. He got an answer. He was satisfied. Walked around back to the door, said good night to everybody, thanked them. I repeat, dead silence in the house. You could hear a pin drop. Now, he goes out, gives a command to his troops. They start marching off, satisfied with the answer. And I repeat, there's a long silence in the house. Finally, the noises cease. Now, The silence is broken. The lady tells something to the Polish teenager in German, which I did not understand. So he relays it to me. And this is what she told him. We have to leave immediately. So we did. We thanked them all, said good night. John and I walked out the door, out to the dirt wagon road. And when we got to that dirt wagon road, it's dark now, about 9, 10 o'clock. The Polish teenager comes running out, says, Andy, we just heard on the radio, the war is over and we can stay. Happy ending, end of my story.
Lost Vietnam Vet by Stephanie Soden.
They fought for our country, gave all they could give. Now we sit and wonder how many still live, missing in action, gone without a trace. Families left grieving. Time is erased. Abandoned by their country, forgotten in unknown land, left with no hope, to die in another's hand. Never give up, we'll never forget. They must be brought home, the lost Vietnam vet.
I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I didn't know what to do. I'll never be the same.
Oh no, I've stepped on a landmine. I can't disable it. I'm gonna die.
Get down from that building. You do not know what war is.
Come on, we need to get out of here before they shoot us.
I miss my dad. When will he be back? I hope he's okay.
Get down, we'll look for cover. There's enemies right in front of us.
have been engaged in studying POWs, MIAs, and the battles that have caused these things to happen. We have some people who are here to recognize this partnership, and they are, I'm going to begin with Mr. Chris Miller, from the District Director of U.S. Representative Congressman John Rutherford of the 4th District of Florida.
Thank you all for allowing me the privilege and the blessing of being with you all today. I'm going to read a letter that Congressman John Rutherford has sent, and as Nadia said, I'm his district director. It's especially good for me to be here today, and I consider it an immense blessing also because I'm a 30-year Army veteran, and it does my heart good to see and hear all the things that I've seen and heard today. So thank you very much. Again, this is from Congressman Rutherford. Foundation Academy. Dear teachers, students, and volunteers, though I am in Washington, D.C., my thoughts are with you at your kickoff event to celebrate the official launch of partnerships between educational groups and the men and women who have served and are serving in the U.S. military. I wanted to send you this letter to extend my appreciation for your collaboration with the Northeast Florida community and specifically with our military members and our veterans. Your project-based learning approach will certainly enhance the students' educational experience as they interact with representatives from the Cecil Field POW MIA Memorial and U.S. Military Air Power Museum, as well as with others who have served our country and sacrificed so much to secure and preserve the many freedoms we enjoy. Our nation owes a great debt of gratitude to those who selflessly serve our country anytime, but especially during times of conflict. The ones who have suffered beyond what most people can imagine during these conflicts are our prisoners of war, missing in action, and their families. According to the Defense POW MIA Accounting Agency, there are currently over 83,000 missing from World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and the Cold War, the Gulf Wars, and other conflicts. I salute you all in doing your part to learn about, honor, and recognize those who have given so much for the cause of freedom. Congratulations on your Academy celebrating its 30-year anniversary, and best wishes for a wonderful school year. Signed, John H. Rutherford, Member of Congress.
Next we have Michelle Barth, the Regional Director for U.S. Senator Bill Nelson.
Thank you very much. There is a short video just after I read these formal remarks, but I come from a military family and I just wanted to say thank you so much. I grew up here in Jacksonville. Senator Nelson was a proud member of the Army himself and was very active in the case with Scott Spiker, and I will never ever forget getting that phone call at about 3 in the morning from our staff in DC that he had been found. So thank you to the school and for all of you for dedicating this program and everything you're doing to help recognize our heroes. Dear friends, I send best wishes to the Foundation Academy as you celebrate the launch of collaborations between educational groups, the Cecil Field POW MIA Memorial, and the U.S. Military Air Power Museum. Although I'm unable to attend in person, please know that I'm thankful for your work to ignite an educational passion in students through art and through military history, and for your dedication to paying tribute to the men, women, and families who have sacrificed so much on behalf of our nation. My best wishes to you all in this important endeavor. Keep up the good work. Sincerely, Bill Nelson, United States Senator.
This is one of the, this ceremony that we had today that paid tribute to the Vietnam veterans. It just touched my heart because I am really touched by that. Before I start, I'd like to take one other minute and recognize an organization, an outfit, if you will, a part of our history as the Buffalo Soldiers. And I would like them to please stand because
Okay, we are coming to the close of our wonderful kickoff. And I would like to remind you a few things. One, we have hot dogs and apple pie.
Apple pie?
To eat, because this is the all-American way, right? So it is we have some booths up. The Buffalo Soldiers, if you want to know more, they have a lot of stuff to show you out there. So please visit their booths. We have the Navy wives have a cookbook. We have our Colonel who's written a book out there, and our own from my first graduating class 30 years ago. His son graduated from here, and he's here representing and has things about the Vietnam War. Gus Crump. So please go visit all the booths that are out there, including some of the things our students have done too. And they're going to share with us a beautiful song called Angel Flight, and then we will all sing together, God Bless America.
Angel Flight Bravo 02, all runways clear for you. You are number 1 for takeoff, runway 25. Get them home, boys.
All I ever wanted to do was fly, leave this world and live in the sky. I left the C-130 out of Fort Worth down. I go up some days I don't want to come down. I fly that plane on the angel flight. Come on, brother, you're with me tonight. Between heaven and earth, you're never alone. On the angel flight, come on, brother, I'm taking you home. I love my family and I love this land, but tonight this flight's for another man. We do what we do cause we've heard the call. Some gave a little but he gave it all. I fly that plane called the angel flight. Come on, brother, you're with me tonight. Come on, brother, you're with me tonight. Between heaven and earth, you're never alone. On the angel flight, come on, brother, I'm taking you home. Come on, brother, I'm taking you home. Brother, I'm taking you home. Well, the cockpit's quiet and the stars are bright. Feels kind of like church being here tonight. It don't matter where we touch down. On the angel flight is sacred ground. Well, I fly that plane called the angel flight. Got a hero riding with us tonight. Hero riding with us tonight. Between heaven and earth, you're never alone. On the angel flight. Come on, brother, I'm taking you home. Come on, brother, I'm taking you home. Come on, brother, I'm taking you home. Come on, brother, I'm taking you home.
You're down 5 miles. Angel Flight Bravo 02, you are number 1 for landing. Welcome, folks. Day is done, gone the sun, from the hills, from the lakes, from the skies, all is well, safely rest. God is nigh, go to sleep, peaceful sleep. May the soldier or sailor God keep on the land or the deep, safe in sleep. Love, good night, must thou go, when the day and the night need thee so. All is well, speedeth all to their rest. Fades the light, and afar goeth days, and the stars shineth bright. Fare thee well, day has gone, night is on. Thanks and praise for our days, 'neath the sun, 'neath the stars.